Right now, you're about to do something that people have been doing for 100 years. You're about to point a car west and follow a road that runs from the middle of Chicago to the edge of the Pacific Ocean. 2,400 miles, 8 states, deserts, mountains, prairies, river crossings, cities, ghost towns, and more roadside diners than you could eat your way through in a lifetime.
This road has carried families fleeing dust storms with everything they owned strapped to the roof. It's carried soldiers heading home from war. It's carried teenagers in convertibles chasing the sun. And now it's carrying you. This is Route 66, and this is the year it turns 100. This audio companion is organized by state, one track per state, running west from Chicago to Santa Monica. Play the track for wherever you are on the road. Starting in Oklahoma, jump to track 5, picking up in Arizona. That's track 8. Start anywhere. Skip around, come back to things. It's your trip. Along the way, you'll hear me flag landmarks before you reach them, tell you the stories behind what you're passing, and point you toward the best places to eat, stretch your legs, and take a photo you'll actually want to keep. But before we get to the road, let's talk about what this road actually is. Because Route 66 isn't just a nice drive. It's one of the most important pieces of infrastructure America ever built. And the story of how it came to be and how it almost disappeared is worth knowing before you put it in your rearview mirror. Picture 1926. Calvin Coolidge is in the White House. The country is booming, jazz is on the radio, and Americans are falling in love with the automobile. But outside the big cities, most roads in America are still dirt. Mud in spring, dust in summer, impassable in winter. If you wanted to drive from Chicago to Los Angeles, there was no single route to follow. You pieced it together from local roads, wagon trails, and guesswork. A businessman in Tulsa, Oklahoma, named Cyrus Avery, looked at a map and saw an opportunity. Avery sat on the federal board tasked with creating a new national highway system, and he pushed hard for a diagonal road connecting Chicago to Los Angeles through the heart of the Midwest and Southwest. Not the most direct route, but the one that would connect the most small towns to the most big cities. The one that would bring commerce and life to places that had neither. On November 11th, 1926, that road was officially designated U.S. Highway 66. It ran through Illinois, Missouri, a sliver of Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California. And it changed everything it touched. Then the 1930s hit. The rain stopped. The topsoil, overplowed and exposed, lifted off the ground and turned the Great Plains into a choking haze of dust. Crops died, banks foreclosed, families who had farmed the same land for generations had nothing left. They loaded mattresses and cooking pots onto whatever vehicle would still run, lashed suitcases to the roof, piled the children into the back seat, and pointed the car toward California. Route 66 was the road they took, not because it was the fastest way west, but because it was paved. It was mostly flat, and the weather along it was survivable year-round. Tens of thousands of families made that drive. John Steinbeck wrote about them in The Grapes of Wrath and gave the road a name that would outlast every other: the Mother Road. After the war, soldiers came home, factories retooled for peacetime, and Americans had money to spend and a hunger to move. Route 66 became the backbone of a brand new culture built around the car. Motels with neon signs so bright you could see them from a mile away. Drive-in restaurants where a waitress brought your burger to the car window on a tray. Gas stations shaped like teepees and rockets and giant sombreros. Anything to get you to pull over. In 1946, a songwriter named Bobby Troup drove Route 66 from Pennsylvania to California with his wife. Somewhere along the way, she said, "Get your kicks on Route 66." He wrote a song around that line. Nat King Cole recorded it, and the whole country started singing it. Chuck Berry covered it. The Rolling Stones covered it. A TV show used it as a title. The road became more than infrastructure. It became an idea, freedom, possibility, the open American horizon. That golden age lasted about 2 decades. Then Dwight Eisenhower signed the Federal Aid Highway Act, and America started building interstates. Bigger, faster, straighter roads that bypassed every small town Route 66 had kept alive. The interstate didn't meander through Seligman, Arizona, or Tucumcari, New Mexico. It went around them. And when the traffic stopped coming, the towns started dying. Motels closed, diners shut their doors. Neon signs went dark and stayed dark. In 1985, Route 66 was officially decommissioned, pulled off the highway map, gone. Except it wasn't gone. A barber in Seligman, Arizona, named Angel Delgadillo refused to let it die. He organized, he lobbied, he got the road designated as a historic highway. The movement spread. Town by town, state by state, people started restoring what the interstates had nearly destroyed. They relit the neon. They reopened the motels. They repainted the murals and fixed the signs and kept the diners serving pie. Today, more than 250 sites along Route 66 are listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Travelers come from every continent to drive it. And in 2026, right now, this year, the road turns 100. Centennial celebrations are happening in every state along the route. Festivals, car shows, museum exhibitions, commemorative events in towns from Chicago to Santa Monica. You are driving Route 66 at the single best moment in its history to do so. One thing you'll figure out pretty quickly is that Route 66 rewards the people who slow down. This isn't a road you conquer in 3 days with energy drinks and an iron bladder. The whole point is what happens between the big landmarks. The hand-painted sign on a barn outside Cuba, Missouri. The way the light hits the mesas at 6 in the morning near Gallup, New Mexico. The old guy at the gas station in Eric, Oklahoma, who played guitar for you and wouldn't take a tip. So, give yourself time, whatever you've budgeted, add a day. You'll use it. Keep your fuel above a quarter tank, especially once you hit western Oklahoma and the Texas Panhandle. The stretches between gas stations get long out there, and the Mojave Desert in California is the same story. Running low in the desert is not the adventure you want. And talk to people along the way. The woman behind the counter at the trading post in Gallup, the owner of the motel in Tucumcari, the volunteer at the Route 66 Museum in a town you'd never heard of before today. These folks have dedicated years, sometimes their entire lives, to keeping this road alive. They know things that aren't in any guidebook, and most of them are thrilled to share. All right, here's where you are. Standing at the start of a road that has carried a century of American life on its back. A road that survived the Dust Bowl, the interstates, and its own obituary. A road that's still here because thousands of people along its path decided it was worth saving. In a minute, you're going to press play on track 2, and we'll start in Chicago. The sign on Adams Street, the skyline behind you, and 2,400 miles of open road ahead. Every state has its own character. Illinois is classic Americana and Abraham Lincoln. Missouri is caves, barbecue, and Ozark Hills. Kansas is a 13-mile sprint with more heart than you'd expect. Oklahoma is 400 miles of the longest drivable stretch through Native American heritage and wide-open plains. Texas is Cadillacs buried in a field and the biggest steak you've ever seen. New Mexico is turquoise sky and red desert and a culture that goes back 1,000 years. Arizona is painted canyons and a town that single-handedly saved this road from extinction. And California is the Mojave, the mountains, and the Pacific Ocean waiting at the end. That's what's ahead of you. Every mile of it. Let's go get your kicks. Illinois! 301 miles. That's what separates downtown Chicago from the Mississippi River, and it's the first leg of your Route 66 journey. But don't think of Illinois as the warm-up act. This state has more to offer than people expect. You'll start underneath skyscrapers, drive past cornfields so flat you can see the curvature of the earth, walk through towns where Abraham Lincoln practiced law, eat at diners that have been flipping burgers since before your grandparents were born, and finish by crossing a bridge with a bend in the middle that defies all logic. Illinois was the first state to fully pave its section of Route 66. Back when the rest of the road was still gravel and dust, this stretch was smooth asphalt all the way from Chicago to the river. So, from day one, driving Route 66 in Illinois felt like the civilized beginning to a journey that would get progressively wilder the further west you went. That hasn't changed. The starting point is on East Adams Street at South Michigan Avenue, right in the thick of downtown Chicago. There's a brown, historic Route 66 Begin sign there, mounted on a post at the corner, right in front of the Art Institute. It's smaller than you'd expect, easy to walk right past if you're not looking for it. But this unassuming little sign marks the spot where 2,400 miles of American highway begin. The sign itself only went up in 1993, long after Route 66 was decommissioned. Before that, the starting point bounced around between Jackson Boulevard and Adams. Today, Adams is the official beginning. Get your photo with it. Everyone does. You'll be glad you did when you're standing next to the end of the trail sign in Santa Monica a couple of weeks from now. Look around. Directly across the street is the Art Institute of Chicago, one of the finest art museums on the planet. A few blocks east, Grant Park and Millennium Park stretch toward Lake Michigan. The Bean is there, that massive mirrored sculpture officially named Cloud Gate that reflects the city skyline in a warped, funhouse kind of way. If you haven't spent time in Chicago yet, carve out at least a day before you leave. Walk the lakefront, ride the tram to the top of Willis Tower, and look out over the grid of the city from 103 floors up. Eat deep dish pizza somewhere that isn't a tourist trap. Ask a local, they'll point you right. But when you're ready to go, your first move is Lou Mitchell's. It's at 565 West Jackson Boulevard, about a dozen blocks west of the start sign, and it has been feeding Route 66 travelers since 1923. That's 3 years before the highway even existed. The place is an institution. The line is often out the door, but they hand out donut holes and boxes of milk duds to everyone waiting, which is such an absurdly charming touch that you can't even be annoyed about the wait. Order the double yolk eggs and fluffy pancakes. Sit at the counter if you can and look at the photos on the walls. Decades of history in one diner. This is how you start a road trip. Budget about 45 minutes to an hour here, and expect to spend $10 to $15. Head southwest out of Chicago on Ogden Avenue, the original Route 66 alignment. The suburbs thin out faster than you'd think. Within an hour, the skyscrapers are in your rear-view mirror, and the landscape has opened up into something completely different. Fields, sky, a 2-lane road cutting through flat country. This is the Midwest introducing itself, and it does it quietly. Your first big stop is Joliet, about 60 miles southwest of Chicago. The old Joliet Prison is the draw here. It's a massive limestone complex that opened in 1858 and didn't close until 2002. If the walls look familiar, you've probably seen them in the Blues Brothers or Prison Break. Parts of it have been restored, and you can take guided tours through the old cell blocks. There's something genuinely eerie about standing inside a prison that operated for almost 150 years. While you're in Joliet, look for the Rialto Square Theater as well. It's a stunning 1926 theater that's been called one of the most beautiful in the country. Joliet is also one of 5 satellite cities hosting centennial events in 2026, so check what's on when you pass through. 30 miles further south, you hit Wilmington, and your first taste of genuine Route 66 roadside weird. The Gemini Giant stands 30 feet tall in South Island Park, holding a silver rocket ship over his head. He's one of the famous muffler men that once guarded businesses all along Route 66, fiberglass giants built in the 1960s to catch the eye of passing drivers. For decades, this one stood guard outside the Launching Pad Drive-In. In 2024, he was moved to the park to ensure his preservation, and he's been freshly restored. He shines brighter than ever. Park the car, walk up to the base, and look up. 30 feet of retro space-age Americana staring down at you. This is the kind of thing that only exists on this road. South of Wilmington, the road gets quieter. You pass through Gardner, where there's a restored 2-cell jail worth a quick photo, and tiny Braceville. The landscape flattens out, cornfields stretch to the horizon, sky as far as you can see. In Dwight, pull over for Ambler's Texaco gas station at 417 West Wauponsee Street. Built in 1933, the cottage-style design with its distinctive gabled roof was meant to blend into residential neighborhoods. It worked. The station looks more like a little house than a place to fill your tank. Ambler's closed in 1999 after 66 years in business. The irony of that number is not lost on anyone. And today, it's been restored to its original glory as a visitor center. Step inside for Route 66 information and souvenirs. It's free and takes about 15 to 20 minutes. A straight shot through the prairie from Dwight brings you to Odell, where the 1932 Standard Oil station sits with its distinctive red and white canopy. The small towns blur together on this stretch, each one a little quieter than the last. But every few miles, another preserved filling station or faded sign reminds you that this road was once the busiest in the country. Pontiac is where things get colorful, literally. This small town punches well above its weight, with over 25 outdoor murals painted across buildings downtown and more enthusiasm for the mother road than places 10 times its size. You'll find murals around every corner: classic cars, Lincoln, local history, Route 66 itself, park downtown, and walk. The whole collection takes about an hour, and it's a surprisingly good stretch-your-legs activity after the drive from Chicago. The real gem, though, is the Route 66 Association Hall of Fame and Museum. It's housed in a century-old firehouse and packed with memorabilia. But the centerpiece is the Bob Waldmeyer exhibit. Waldmeyer was an artist and Route 66 preservationist who spent decades traveling the road in his Volkswagen bus, drawing the incredibly detailed hand-illustrated maps that became iconic. The actual VW bus is on display inside the museum. It's plastered with stickers and painted with scenes from the road, and standing next to it, you get a real sense of the kind of person who dedicated their life to keeping Route 66 alive. The museum is free and earns at least an hour of your time. Another 35 miles of prairie brings you to the Twin Cities of Bloomington and Normal, roughly the halfway point across Illinois. These are good lunch stop towns. The Luca Grill has been serving Italian food since 1936, and their thin crust pizza is worth pulling over for. Here's a piece of trivia you can drop at your next dinner party. Beer nuts were invented in Bloomington. If you want a weird local snack, now you know where it comes from. For Route 66 history, look for the Sprague Super Service Station, a beautifully restored 1931 station that looks like a pagoda. The downtown is walkable with some nice old buildings, and you can explore freely for an hour or two. 30 miles further south, near the town of Atlanta, Illinois, keep your eyes on the roadside. There's a 19-foot tall fiberglass Paul Bunyan statue holding a hot dog. Because Route 66, this is the kind of thing that makes absolutely no sense in any other context, and makes perfect sense here. The town calls him Tall Paul, and he's been standing there drawing confused smiles from passing drivers for decades. While you're stopped, the town also has an octagonal public library built in 1908 and the J.H. Hawes Grain Elevator Museum. Atlanta takes its quirks seriously. It's free, and 15 to 20 minutes is enough to see everything. The next town is actually called Lincoln, named for the president before he was president. He practiced law here, and the town changed its name in his honor. Beyond Lincoln, the road rolls into Springfield, the state capital, and we're deep in Lincoln Central. Springfield is the capital of Illinois, but for Route 66 travelers, it's the capital of the Mother Road. More original businesses survive here than almost anywhere else on the route. You could spend a full day in Springfield and still not see everything, so pick what matters to you. Start with the Cozy Dog Drive-In at 2935 South 6th Street. The corn dog was perfected here. Well, the Cozy Dog was a hot dog on a stick, dipped in batter, and fried. Ed Waldmeyer created it in the 1940s, and his family still runs the place today. Get a cozy dog? Or 3, check out the Route 66 memorabilia on the walls and talk to the staff. They've heard every corn dog origin story, and they'll tell you why theirs is the real deal. Budget $5 to $10 and at least 30 minutes, because you'll end up lingering. The Lincoln Home National Historic Site is at 413 South 8th Street. It's the only house Lincoln ever owned, and the surrounding neighborhood is preserved exactly as it looked in his day. Free tours run every 15 minutes, and standing in the parlor where Lincoln received the news of his presidential nomination is one of those moments where history stops being abstract and becomes very, very real. Give it about 45 minutes. Lincoln's tomb is at Oak Ridge Cemetery on the north side of town. It's his final resting place, along with his wife Mary and 3 of their sons. There's a bronze bust of Lincoln outside, and his nose is noticeably shinier than the rest of his face. That's because everyone rubs it for luck. Go ahead, everyone does. It's free and takes about 30 minutes. Shea's Gas Station Museum at 2075 Peoria Road is another worthwhile stop. The old filling station was turned into a beloved museum by its owner, Bill Shea, an auto enthusiast and collector. After Shea's death in 2013, the building was sold and its contents were auctioned off. But the exterior has been restored, and the grounds reopened to the public in 2024. It's free to see the grounds and takes about 20 to 30 minutes. During the centennial year, Springfield is pulling out all the stops. The Illinois State Fair is running Route 66 exhibits, and the city has a Legends neon sign park showcasing restored vintage signs from the road's golden age. Springfield calls itself the birthplace of the road trip, and walking around the city in 2026, it's hard to argue. Head southwest out of Springfield through quiet farmland. Divernon, Farmersville, Wagoner, blink, and you'll miss them. The landscape starts to roll more as you approach the Mississippi River. Staunton, Hamel, Edwardsville, small towns with old alignments and faded signs. You're in the St. Louis metro area now, even if it doesn't feel like it. 55 miles, about an hour of driving to Litchfield. Litchfield is home to the Ariston Cafe at 413 North Old Route 66. The Ariston has been serving travelers since 1924. That's 2 years before Route 66 even existed. It moved to its current location in 1935 and hasn't changed much since. The neon sign out front is a classic, and the food is honest Midwestern comfort: steaks, sandwiches, pie. Sit in the dining room with its original fixtures. Look at the photos on the walls. Order pie. You won't regret it. Budget $12 to $25 and about 45 minutes to an hour. Also in Litchfield, the Skyview Drive-In at 1500 North Old Route 66 is one of the last drive-in theaters on Route 66, and it's still showing movies. If your timing is right, catch a double feature under the stars. It's cheap, it's retro, and it's the perfect way to end a day on the road. Open spring through autumn, Friday to Sunday nights. About $10 a person. Continuing toward the river, the next town worth a stop is Collinsville. Pull over for the world's largest catsup bottle. It's a 170-foot water tower, painted to look like a Brooks catsup bottle. It's ridiculous. It's wonderful. It was built in 1949 and almost torn down in the 1990s before locals saved it. Now, it's a landmark. And yes, it says catsup, not ketchup. That's how Brooks spelled it. Don't argue with the bottle. It's free and takes about 10 minutes, mostly spent trying to fit the whole thing in one photo. In Granite City, a newer addition to the route is worth noting: the It's Electric Neon Sign Park, which collects and restores vintage neon signage that once defined Route 66 after dark. It's a fitting preview of what's coming in Missouri and beyond, where neon becomes an art form and then you reach the Mississippi. You'll see it before you get there, the land opening up as you enter the Great Rivers region of southwestern Illinois, where Route 66 intersects with the Great River Road, and then there it is, the Chain of Rocks Bridge. This bridge is one of the strangest pieces of engineering on Route 66. Built in 1929, it carried highway traffic across the Mississippi River until 1967. It's just under a mile each way. The steel trusses are a pale industrial gray against the sky, and the river below is wide and brown and powerful. All of that would be interesting enough. But what makes this bridge unforgettable is the famous 22-degree bend right in the middle, a curve in a bridge over a major river. It was built to avoid a water intake on the riverbed below. Rather than move the intake or reroute the bridge, the engineers just bent it. The result is a structure that looks like someone got confused halfway across and turned left. The bridge closed to cars in 1970 and sat abandoned for decades before it reopened as a pedestrian and bike path in 1999. Today, you can walk or cycle across, and you absolutely should if the weather is on your side. Park near the Chouteau Island Trailhead on the Illinois side. The views of the river are wide and cinematic. The best vantage point is right at the bend, where you can look both directions along the bridge and see the Mississippi stretching north and south. Standing in the middle of this river on a bridge from 1929 is something you won't forget. The bridge closes at dusk, so time your visit right. It's free and takes 45 minutes to an hour. Walk back to your car, pull out of the lot, and look in the mirror one last time. 301 miles of flat prairie, small-town diners, Lincoln history, cottage-style gas stations, a muffler man holding a rocket, a tall Paul holding a hot dog, a 170-foot catsup bottle, a drive-in theater under the stars, and a bridge that forgot how to go straight. Ahead of you, St. Louis and the Gateway Arch await. The terrain changes, the road starts to curve, the Ozark Hills roll up out of the ground. There are caves down there with stories about Jesse James. There's frozen custard in St. Louis so thick they serve it upside down. There's a town that calls itself the Mural City and a gas station that takes you back to 1934 and won't let you leave. Track 3, Missouri, let's keep going. Missouri. You just crossed the Mississippi. Welcome to Missouri and to St. Louis, the gateway to the West. This is where Lewis and Clark set off to explore the frontier. This is where the Gateway Arch rises 630 feet into the sky. And this is where Route 66 travelers have been stopping for frozen custard since 1929. Missouri gives you more than 300 miles of Route 66, and the road here feels genuinely different from Illinois. The flat prairie is behind you. Ahead are rolling Ozark Hills, deep limestone caves, towns with murals on every wall, a half-scale Stonehenge, a replica Hubble Space Telescope, the birthplace of Route 66 itself, and a drive-in theater that's been showing double features since 1949. The terrain has personality now. The road curves, the landscape has depth, and the stories get wilder. St. Louis deserves a full day if you have it. But even if you're just passing through, make time for the Arch and Ted Drewes. You won't regret it. You've seen the Gateway Arch in photos. Now, see it in person. It's the tallest monument in the United States, 630 feet of stainless steel curving against the sky. It was built in the 1960s to honor westward expansion, and it's still the most striking thing on the St. Louis skyline. You can ride a tram to the top for views of the city and the Mississippi. The museum below is excellent and free. Even if you skip the tram, walk up close, stand underneath it, the scale is hard to believe until you're there. The park itself is free to enter, and the tram runs $15 to $19, budget 1 to 2 hours. Ted Drewes Frozen Custard at 6726 Chippewa Street has been serving frozen custard on Route 66 since 1929. The stuff is legendary, thicker and creamier than ice cream, served so dense that they hand it to you upside down. It won't fall out. They call it a concrete. The Chippewa Street location is the original Route 66 spot. Lines can be long on summer nights, but they move fast. Get a concrete with mix-ins, find a spot in the parking lot, and enjoy. $5 to $8, 20 to 30 minutes. This is a Route 66 tradition. Head southwest out of St. Louis on Chippewa Street, which becomes Watson Road, the old Route 66 alignment. You'll pass through suburbs before hitting Route 66 State Park at the site of the former town of Times Beach. About 20 miles, 30 minutes. This park has one of the stranger backstories on Route 66. Times Beach was a real town, a community of around 2,000 people, until 1983 when it was completely evacuated due to dioxin contamination. The whole town was demolished and the land cleaned up. Today, it's a peaceful park along the Merrimack River with hiking trails and river views. The Visitor Center is located in the historic 1935 Bridgehead Inn, though it has undergone extensive renovations recently, so check online to see if it's reopened before you stop. The park is free and worth about 30 minutes if the center is open. Continue southwest on I-44, the old Route 66 corridor, or take the outer roads where possible. The landscape gets hillier as you enter the Ozarks. Look for the barn signs advertising Merrimack Caverns. They've been painted on barns across the Midwest since the 1930s, and a few of them are still standing. Spotting one from the road is a small thrill. Merrimack Caverns at 1135 Highway W near Sullivan are one of the most famous caves in America and definitely the most heavily advertised on Route 66. A man named Lester Dill bought these caverns in 1933 and plastered barn roofs across the Midwest with Merrimack Cavern signs. The caves themselves are genuinely impressive. Guided tours take you through massive underground rooms with formations that have been growing for millions of years. The wine room, the ballroom, the theater. Legend says Jesse James used the caves as a hideout after his robberies, though that's probably just good marketing on Dill's part. Either way, it's a classic Route 66 experience. $30.50 for adults, and the tour takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours. 25 miles further west, Cuba calls itself Route 66 Mural City, and it backs it up with over a dozen large outdoor murals scattered through town. They cover everything from local history to Route 66 nostalgia to the town's connection to Amelia Earhart, who landed here once. Park downtown and walk. It takes about 30 minutes to see most of them. The Wagon Wheel Motel on the edge of town is also worth a look. It's a classic motor court that's been restored and still takes guests. It's one of the oldest continuously operating motels on Route 66, and sleeping there puts you about as close to the golden age as you can get without a time machine. Just up the road in Fanning, the Route 66 rocker sits outside a general store and archery shop at the Fanning 66 Outpost. This 42-foot steel rocker used to hold the record for the world's largest rocking chair until Casey, Illinois built a bigger one. Note that the rockers have been welded shut for safety, so it doesn't actually rock, but it's still a massive landmark. Quick stop, good photo, 10 to 15 minutes, back on the road. Between Cuba and Lebanon, try to stay on the old alignments as much as possible. The interstate is faster, but the original road hugs the hills and rivers. Look for historic Route 66 signs and follow them. This is Missouri at its best. The road winds through the Ozark Hills, crossing the Big Piney River, and brings you to Devil's Elbow. This tiny hamlet has a big history. The original 1923 steel truss bridge still stands here, now open only to pedestrians. Walk across it for views of the Big Piney River below. The name comes from a sharp bend in the river, where floating logs used to get jammed during the lumber era. The loggers called it the Devil's Elbow, and the name stuck. The famous Elbow Inn Bar and BBQ is currently closed for long-term renovations, but the building itself is a landmark. This is old Missouri, quiet, green, and full of history. It's free and worth 30 to 45 minutes of your time. The drive from Cuba to Devil's Elbow, about 45 miles, is one of the prettiest stretches in Missouri. Take your time here, about an hour of driving. Continue through the Ozarks, passing through tiny towns like Hooker and Hazel Green, and you'll reach Lebanon. About 40 miles, 50 minutes from Devil's Elbow. Lebanon has 2 stops worth your time. The first is the Munger Moss Motel at 1336 East Route 66. For decades, this family-run motel welcomed travelers under the care of Ramona Lehman, who became one of the most beloved figures on Route 66. While the motel itself has closed its doors to overnight guests following Ramona's passing, the iconic neon sign, one of the most photographed on the entire route, remains standing. It has been preserved as a historic landmark. Stop for photos. About 15 minutes. The second is the Route 66 Museum at Lebanon, inside the town's library building at 915 South Jefferson Avenue. It's a small but well-curated museum with good exhibits on Missouri's Route 66 history, vintage signs, and local memorabilia. Free and worth 20 to 30 minutes if you're passing through. The road straightens out as you approach Springfield. Stop in Marshfield if you need to stretch your legs. The town is the birthplace of astronomer Edwin Hubble, and they've built a scale replica of the Hubble Space Telescope in his honor. It's an unexpected sight in a small Missouri town. But then again, unexpected sights are what this road does best. 45 miles from Lebanon to Springfield, about 50 minutes. Springfield claims to be the birthplace of Route 66. It was here in 1926 that officials first proposed the name Route 66 for the new highway, and the city takes that claim seriously. Springfield is the biggest city between St. Louis and Oklahoma, and you could easily spend 2 to 4 hours here. Must-sees include the History Museum on the square, which has excellent Route 66 exhibits, and the Gilliaz Theater, a gorgeous 1926 movie palace that's been restored and still hosts shows. Park Central Square is where it all started, the spot where the Route 66 name was born. The Route 66 Car Museum downtown has a collection that will stop any car enthusiast in their tracks. And the Best Western Route 66 Rail Haven is a restored motel from the golden era that's been welcoming guests for 75 years. It's on the National Register of Historic Places, and you can actually stay there. Bass Pro Shops was founded in Springfield, and their flagship store is a destination in itself. 500,000 square feet with multiple free museums inside, including an aquarium with 35,000 animals. One more stop before you leave Springfield. Fantastic Caverns at 4,872 North Farm Road, 125. This is America's only ride-through cave. You tour the Ozark Cavern in a Jeep-drawn tram, making it perfect for anyone who doesn't want to walk a mile underground. The caverns have been a tourist attraction since 1967, though the cave itself is millions of years old. Good for families and anyone short on time. Tours run about 55 minutes, $36 for adults. Head southwest through the rolling hills of southwest Missouri. Halltown is a ghost town worth a quick stop. Just a few crumbling buildings, but photogenic. Paris Springs Junction has a nice old store. The road is peaceful and empty. 70 miles, about an hour and a half to Carthage. Your first stop is Gary's Gay Parita at 21,118 Old Route 66, near Ash Grove. This is a lovingly recreated 1930s Sinclair gas station, built by a Route 66 enthusiast named Gary Turner. Gary passed away in 2015, but volunteers keep the station open. Stop by for photos of the old pumps and vintage cars, and sign the guest book. This is what Route 66 preservation looks like. People who love the road keeping its spirit alive. Free, 15 to 20 minutes. Red Oak, 2, is on County Road 110, just outside Carthage. Artist Lowell Davis grew up in Red Oak, Missouri. When the town died, he bought up the old buildings and moved them here, recreating a ghost town on his farm. A general store, a blacksmith shop, a gas station, houses, all arranged like a tiny village frozen in time. It's weird and wonderful. Very photogenic, very strange, very Route 66, free to wander around, 30 to 45 minutes. Carthage itself is a beautiful Victorian town worth a walk. The courthouse square is lined with ornate 19th century buildings, and the Jasper County Courthouse is gorgeous. Romanesque revival with a central clock tower. Route 66 runs right through the middle of it all. Grab lunch at the Igloo, a vintage frozen custard stand, or Wilder's Steakhouse, which has been serving since the 1940s. This is small-town Missouri at its most charming, free to explore, 1 to 2 hours. Also in Carthage, the 66 Drive-In Theater at 17231 Old 66 Boulevard. one of the last original drive-in theaters on Route 66, still showing movies. The 66 Drive-In opened in 1949 and has barely changed since. The screen, the snack bar, the speaker posts, plus a giant neon sign that lights up at dusk. If you can time your visit for a Friday or Saturday night in summer, do it. Watch a double feature Under the Stars. Open April through September, $8 to $10 a person, and you'll be there 3 to 4 hours. It's cheap, it's retro, and it's the perfect way to end a day on the road. A short hop of 18 miles, about 25 minutes, brings you to Joplin, Missouri's last Route 66 city. Joplin has had a rough go. It was a lead and zinc mining town that boomed and busted. And then in 2011, a devastating tornado tore through the city. But the town has rebuilt, and there's history worth seeing. The Bonnie and Clyde hideout, an apartment where the outlaws stayed in 1933, is now a small museum. The Route 66 Mural Park downtown features a replica 1964 Corvette embedded in a wall alongside huge tile murals. And the notorious Spook Light, a mysterious orb of light that nobody can fully explain, has been reported in the hills southeast of the city for over a century. Before you leave Missouri, take a photo at the Kansas state line. You're about to enter the shortest Route 66 state, just 13 miles, before hitting Oklahoma, 300 miles of Missouri, done. You've stood under the tallest monument in America, eaten frozen custard handed to you upside down, walked through caves that Jesse James may or may not have hidden in, driven through a town that Lowell Davis rebuilt from the dead, and watched the Ozark Hills roll past your window for hours. Not bad for one state. Ahead, Kansas, 13 miles, 3 towns. A cement whale's worth of personality packed into the shortest stretch on the route. Then Oklahoma, where Route 66 opens up wider than anywhere else. Track 4, Kansas. It's short, but it punches. Kansas. Don't blink. Kansas has just 13 miles of Route 66, the shortest stretch of any state on the Mother Road. You could drive through in 15 minutes without stopping. But that would be a mistake. This tiny corner of Kansas packs more history, more charm, and more Pixar movie connections than states 10 times its size. Route 66 clips through 3 small towns here: Galena, Riverton, and Baxter Springs. All 3 have deep roots in the lead and zinc mining industry that once dominated this region. And all 3 have reinvented themselves around the highway that keeps visitors coming back. Give yourself at least an hour and a half. 2 hours if you like to linger, you won't regret a single minute. Galena was once a booming mining town. Lead and zinc poured out of these hills, and thousands of workers, many of them immigrants, came here chasing a hard, dangerous living underground. The mines are long closed, but the town has found a second life on Route 66. The big draw is 4 women on the route at 119 North Main Street. This is the building that houses the famous cars on the route attraction, and it's run by 4 local women who've become Route 66 celebrities in their own right. They bought the old Conotec service station, a building dating to the 1930s, and lovingly restored it into a destination. Inside, you'll find diner-style seating, Route 66 merchandise, and walls covered with photos and memorabilia. Free to visit, 20 to 30 minutes. Outside the building, parked right where you can't miss it, is a 1951 International truck that is widely believed to be the real-life inspiration for Tow Mater from the Pixar movie Cars. The resemblance is uncanny, rusty, battered, grinning in its own mechanical way. Whether you're 6 or 60, you're going to want a photo with it. And it's not just Tow Mater. The whole town of Radiator Springs in the movie was inspired by small towns along Route 66. And Galena is one of the key ones, along with Seligman, Arizona, which you'll hear about in Track 8. The filmmakers visited these places, talked to the people who live here, and came away with the theme that runs through the movie. Life was slower once, and people were nicer. Since the film came out in 2006, it has brought thousands of new visitors to Route 66 communities like this one. You can feel the impact walking around Galena. Before you leave Galena, two more stops. The Galena Mining and Historical Museum at 319 West 7th Street tells the story of the mining boom that built this town. The dangerous work, the immigrant workers, the wealth that flowed out of these hills. The museum is housed in a restored train depot, and the exhibits include mining equipment, old photographs, and stories of the miners who built this community. And just outside town on Route 66 at Brush Creek, pull over for the Rainbow Arch Bridge. This 1923 bridge is the last remaining Rainbow Arch Bridge on all of Route 66. The design, a graceful concrete curve over the road, was patented by Iowa engineer James Barney Marsh in 1912 and was once popular across the Midwest. Most have been demolished. This one survives, and it's gorgeous. Pull over and walk across it. It's especially beautiful in the early morning or late afternoon when the light hits the concrete just right. Riverton is tiny, just a few hundred people, but it has one of the best preserved general stores on all of Route 66. And if you want to know what roadside stops looked like in the 1920s, this is your chance. The Eisler Brothers Old Riverton store at 7109 Southeast Highway 66 has been serving travelers since 1925, 1 year before Route 66 was even designated. Step inside and step back in time. The shelves are stacked with old-fashioned candy and local goods. The pressed tin ceiling is original. This is what a roadside store was supposed to be. A place where you could get gas, buy groceries, grab a sandwich, and catch up on local news. The Eisler family owned it from 1973, and their nephew, Scott Nelson, managed it before purchasing it in 2011. He keeps the tradition alive. Order a sandwich at the deli counter. The food is fresh, cheap, and served with a side of history. Browse the Route 66 souvenirs, sign the guest book. You'll see license plates and stickers from every state and dozens of countries. People come from all over the world to visit this store, and that tells you something about what Route 66 means. Baxter Springs is the last town before Oklahoma, and it's got stories to tell. This was a cattle town, a mining town, and, if the legends are true, a hideout for outlaws. Members of the Jesse James gang allegedly robbed the bank here in 1876. Or maybe Jesse himself wasn't even there. The locals will argue it either way. Start at the former cafe on the route at 1101 Military Avenue. The building itself dates to the 1870s and sits on the site of that alleged Jesse James robbery. The cafe on the route once operated here, famous for its appearance on diners, drive-ins, and dives, before closing in 2013. You can still see the historic exterior, the original bank vault outline, and the Jesse James mural on the north side. It's closed now, but it's worth 5 to 10 minutes for the exterior and the history. The Baxter Springs Heritage Center at 740 East Avenue is a well-done local museum covering everything from the Civil War. There was a massacre here in 1863 when Confederate guerrillas attacked a Union garrison, to the cattle drives to Route 66. The Route 66 section includes a recreated diner and gas station, vintage signs, and plenty of memorabilia. The volunteers are passionate and knowledgeable. They'll walk you through the exhibits and share stories you won't find in any guidebook. Free, donations welcome. Give yourself at least 30 to 45 minutes. Before you leave, take a walk down Military Avenue in historic downtown Baxter Springs. The downtown has been restored with Route 66 murals, vintage signage, and old brick buildings that haven't changed much in a century. It's a pleasant 15-minute stroll, and it's the last thing you'll see in Kansas before crossing into Oklahoma. Continue south on Route 66. The Kansas Oklahoma state line is just a few minutes past downtown Baxter Springs, 13 miles, 3 towns, a tow modder truck, a 1925 general store with a pressed tin ceiling, a rainbow bridge from 1923, a Jesse James bank robbery, a Civil War massacre, and a walk through a downtown that looks like it hasn't moved since 1955. Not bad for the short estate on Route 66. You've completed the short estate on Route 66, but hopefully not the quickest. Oklahoma awaits with 400 miles of Mother Road ahead. This is the state with the longest drivable stretch, the Blue Whale, the Round Barn, a 66-foot soda bottle, and more roadside personality than you can fit in a single day. Track 5. Oklahoma, the heart of Route 66, Oklahoma. Oklahoma is the big one. With 400 miles of Route 66, more than any other state, this is where the Mother Road really stretches out. You'll cross rolling plains, pass through 2 major cities, and see some of the most iconic roadside attractions anywhere on the route. This is also Dust Bowl country. In the 1930s, Oklahoma farmers fled west on Route 66, looking for work and a better life. That history is everywhere here, in the small towns and the people who stayed behind. You'll feel it in the landscape, in the empty stretches of western Oklahoma where the plains open up and the sky becomes the biggest thing you've ever seen. But you'll also feel the resilience. These communities survived the Dust Bowl, survived the interstates, and survived being forgotten. They're still here, still welcoming travelers, and still proud of this road. You enter Oklahoma at Quapaw, just over the Kansas line. It's tiny and quiet, but there's a nice mural downtown and some old buildings worth a quick look. This was lead and zinc mining territory, just like Kansas next door. Your first town of real interest is Miami, and before you say it wrong, it's pronounced Miami here. Not like the city in Florida. Miami was a wealthy mining town, and the old Coleman Theater at 103 North Main Street proves it. It's a gorgeous 1929 movie palace with Spanish colonial revival architecture, ornate interior detailing, and a chandelier that makes you wonder how a mining town in northeast Oklahoma ended up with something this elegant. Free tours are available. The downtown strip has some nice Route 66 murals, too. 30 to 45 minutes at the Coleman. Don't miss the Ribbon Road while you're in the area. It's a stretch of original 9-foot-wide concrete from the 1920s, barely wide enough for one car. It's almost comical by modern standards. But it gives you a visceral sense of what driving Route 66 felt like when it was new. Head southwest through rolling green countryside. You'll pass through tiny towns like Afton, where the old Afton station is worth a stop if it's open, and Veneta. The landscape is pretty here, not flat like Kansas. 65 miles from Miami to Claremore, about an hour and a half with stops. In Claremore, the Will Rogers Memorial Museum tells the story of Oklahoma's favorite son. Cowboy, actor, comedian, and all-around American legend. Will Rogers was born near Olaga, about 12 miles north, but Claremore is where his legacy lives. Even if you don't know much about him, the museum is worth an hour. $10 for adults, 45 minutes to an hour. In Chelsea, Ed Galloway's Totem Pole Park is folk art, on a scale that's hard to believe. Galloway spent 11 years building elaborate concrete totem poles as a tribute to Native American cultures. The main totem pole stands 90 feet tall and is covered in hundreds of painted images. Standing at the base looking up is one of those moments where the ambition and craft of a single person leave you genuinely speechless. And then there's the blue whale. In Catoosa, just outside Tulsa, a giant blue whale made of concrete and steel sits by a pond at 2680 North Highway 66. Hugh Davis, a retired Tulsa Zoo zookeeper, built this 80-foot whale in 1972 as an anniversary gift for his wife Zelta, who collected whale figurines. It became a local swimming hole, then a landmark, and now it's one of the most photographed spots on all of Route 66. Important note for 2026. The Blue Whale site closed in September 2025 for a major renovation ahead of the Route 66 Centennial. A new visitor center is expected to open by summer 2026. Check online before you go to confirm it's reopened. In the meantime, blue whale gifts can be purchased at the D.W. Carell Museum in Catoosa. When the site is open, it's free and takes 20 to 30 minutes. Follow 11th Street, the historic Route 66 alignment, into Tulsa. The approach isn't pretty at first, commercial strips and suburbs, but it gets better downtown. 15 miles from Catoosa, about 25 minutes. Tulsa is packed with gorgeous Art Deco buildings from the 1920s and 1930s. The city was an oil boom town, and the money that flowed through here funded architecture that rivals anything in America. The Philcade Building, the Boston Avenue Methodist Church, and the Tulsa Union Depot are all stunning. For Route 66 specifically, check out the restored Meadow Gold sign on 11th Street, one of the most famous neon signs on the route. The Blue Dome District downtown is named for a distinctive blue-tiled gas station dome from 1924, and it's now the city's main nightlife and dining area. Bars, restaurants, street art, and live music in a walkable area. Kane's Ballroom, also in the area, is where Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys invented Western swing music. It's still a live music venue and a piece of American music history. Cyrus Avery Centennial Plaza honors the Tulsa businessman who pushed Route 66 into existence. There's a bronze sculpture of Avery and his family in a Model T, and it's a fitting tribute to the man without whom this road wouldn't exist. Buck Adams' Cosmic Curios on 66 is a souvenir shop guarded by a 20-foot-tall space cowboy muffler man statue named Buck and his companion Stella, the space cowgirl. The Golden Driller, a 76-foot-tall statue of an oil worker outside the Tulsa Expo Center, is one of the tallest freestanding statues in the country. He's been standing there since 1953 and has become a beloved Tulsa landmark. Tulsa takes food seriously. Try Ike's Chili for old-school comfort food. It's the city's oldest restaurant and has been feeding hungry drivers since 1908. Bern Company Barbecue is excellent for smoked meat. Or hit any of the restaurants in the Blue Dome District. This is a good place to have a real meal. Budget 2 to 4 hours for Tulsa. Free to explore. Southwest out of Tulsa toward Oklahoma City, you'll pass through Sapulpa, which has a nice downtown, then Stroud, Chandler, and Arcadia. The land flattens out as you approach the capital. 95 miles, about 2 hours with stops. In Stroud, the Rock Cafe at 114 West Main Street is a must. The building was constructed in 1939 using rock pulled from the roadbed during the paving of Route 66. The cafe has been serving travelers ever since, surviving a tornado and a fire over the years. The owner, Dawn Welch, inspired the character Sally Carrera in the Pixar movie Cars. Dawn was a city lawyer who gave up the fast lane for small-town life on Route 66 And that story resonated with the filmmakers. Dawn's still there, happy to share stories. The food is excellent. Try the Jaeger Schnitzel if you want something unexpected from a roadside diner in Oklahoma. In Chandler, the Route 66 Interpretive Center is housed in a sandstone armory built by the WPA in the 1930s. It takes a fresh, sensory approach to telling the story of the road, more immersive exhibit than traditional museum. Check out the Lincoln Motel nearby as well. The Arcadia Round Barn at 107 East Highway 66 is one of the most photographed buildings on Route 66. Built in 1898 by a farmer named William Harrison Oder, this red round barn is the only one of its kind left in Oklahoma. The roof collapsed in 1988, but a team of volunteers spent years restoring it board by board. Today, it's a gift shop and small museum, but the real attraction is the building itself. Go inside and look up at the curved wood ceiling. It's remarkable craftsmanship, free 15 to 20 minutes. And then comes Pops. You'll see it before you get there. A 66-foot tall soda bottle sculpture covered in LED lights, glowing against the prairie sky. The building itself is all glass and swooping lines, modern and striking. Pops 66. Soda Ranch at 660. West Highway 66 in Arcadia is a gas station, convenience store, and diner, but mostly it's a celebration of soda. They stock more than 700 varieties of pop from around the world. From traditional cola to bacon-flavored soda to ranch dressing pop, if it exists in a bottle, Pops probably has it. Come at night when the giant bottle glows. The burgers are solid, the milkshakes are excellent, and you can spend half an hour just browsing the soda wall. Oklahoma City sprawls, so give yourself time if you want to explore. The Route 66 alignment runs along 23rd Street and 39th Street through the city. 20 miles from Arcadia, about 30 minutes, OKC has reinvented itself. The Bricktown Entertainment District is fun for an evening walk, built along a canal with restaurants, bars, and a water taxi. The Myriad Botanical Gardens are a green oasis in the center of the city, with a Crystal Bridge Tropical Conservatory that's worth a visit, even if you're not a plant person. And the Paseo Arts District has galleries, studios, and the occasional street festival in a neighborhood full of Spanish Revival architecture. The Oklahoma City National Memorial and Museum is somber and powerful. The outdoor memorial is a space that demands silence. The reflecting pool stretches between two bronze gates marked 901 and 903, framing the moment of the blast at 9:02 on April 19, 1995. The 168 empty chairs, one for each person killed, are arranged in 9 rows, representing each floor of the Murrah Federal Building. At night, each chair is illuminated from below. The survivor tree, an American elm that endured the explosion, still grows on the grounds. 19 smaller chairs in the front rows represent the children. It is one of the most moving memorials in the country. Give it the time it deserves. The National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum is outstanding. Even if you think cowboy culture isn't your thing, the art collection and historical exhibits will change your mind. For Route 66 specifically, cruise down 23rd Street past old motels and neon signs. The Gold Dome building is a weird and wonderful landmark, a geodesic dome that's been everything from a bank to a church. And don't leave Oklahoma City without trying an onion burger. This is OKC's contribution to American cuisine, and it's been the local obsession since the 1920s. If you didn't get your onion burger in OKC, El Reno will take care of you. This town is the onion burger capital of the world. Seriously, multiple diners here have been making onion fried burgers since the 1920s. thin patties pressed into a bed of onions on a flat grill. The onions caramelize into the meat, and the whole thing becomes something greater than the sum of its parts. Sid's Diner and Robert's Grill are the classics. Pick one or both and taste history. The Big 8 Motel is a well-preserved motor court worth a photo stop. $8 to $12 for a burger, 45 minutes to an hour for the stop. Western Oklahoma gets quieter. The towns shrink, the land flattens. This is where the plains begin, and where Route 66 travelers start to feel the West opening up ahead of them. The attractions are fewer, but the driving is peaceful. Before Weatherford, a quick note on Lucille's. In the tiny town of Hydro, the original Lucille's service station dates to 1929 and became one of the most photographed stops on the Mother Road. Lucille Hammonds ran the station for decades and became known as the mother of the Mother Road. She'd pump your gas, sell you a soda, and talk your ear off about the road. The station is preserved as a historic landmark. In nearby Weatherford, Lucille's Roadhouse is a Route 66-themed restaurant modeled after the original station. Weatherford was also home to astronaut Thomas Stafford, who passed away in 2024. The Stafford Air and Space Museum is a 63,000 square foot Smithsonian affiliate with actual spacecraft, flight suits, and a Titan II rocket. If you have even a passing interest in aviation or space history, this is one of the best small museums you'll find anywhere. It's well worth the stop. 70 miles from El Reno, about an hour and a half. In Clinton, the Oklahoma Route 66 Museum is one of the best on the entire route. It covers the highway's history decade by decade, with exhibits on the Dust Bowl, the Golden Age, and the Modern Revival. You walk through recreated rooms from each era, complete with period music playing in the background and displays that capture what it actually felt like to be on this road in 1935, 1955, and 1975. $7 for adults, worth at least an hour. Elk City has the National Route 66 and Transportation Museum at 2717 West Highway 66. It features a recreated street of old buildings, gas stations, motels, a diner. You can climb into a 1955 pink Cadillac and drive through all 8 states on a simulated Route 66 road trip, which is exactly as fun as it sounds. It's a bit kitschy, but genuinely enjoyable. The Old Town Museum complex next door covers local history and pioneer life with displays and artifacts that give a glimpse into the lives of early settlers in western Oklahoma. $5 for adults, 45 minutes to an hour. Sayre is a small town with a beautiful old courthouse and a stretch of original Route 66 pavement nearby. The Western Motel is a classic motor court. Not much to do here, but it's a pleasant place to stop and stretch. Eric calls itself the redneck capital of the world. Their words, not mine. The Sandhills Curiosity Shop is worth a stop if it's open, packed with weird stuff and run by even weirder people. And I mean that as a compliment. Look for the old movie theater and jail downtown, and then comes Texola. Oklahoma's last gasp, Texola is nearly a ghost town now, population under 40. But that's what makes it special. Abandoned buildings line the main road. Faded signs advertise businesses that closed decades ago. Tumbleweeds roll across empty lots. The old Texola jail, a tiny stone structure from 1910, is supposedly haunted. And standing in front of it in the late afternoon with the wind blowing across the plains, you can almost believe it. This is what happens to a town when the interstate pulls the traffic away and nobody comes back. It's eerie, it's atmospheric, and it's a powerful reminder of what Route 66 preservation is fighting against. Take photos, soak in the silence, then cross into Texas. The state line is just past Texola. You've crossed 400 miles of Oklahoma, 400 miles of Mother Road through Dust Bowl country, through two major cities, through towns that time forgot and towns that refuse to be forgotten. You stood next to an 80-foot whale built by a zookeeper for his wife. You browsed 700 flavors of soda in a building shaped like a spaceship. You ate an onion burger that's been made the same way for 100 years. You looked up at a 90-foot totem pole built by one man over 11 years. You stood in silence at a memorial for 168 people who never came home. And you watched the green hills of the Northeast flatten into the endless plains of the West until the sky became the biggest thing you've ever seen. That's Oklahoma. It doesn't hold back. Texas brings the panhandle, flat, wide, and home to Cadillac Ranch. The biggest stake challenge on Route 66 is waiting for you in Amarillo. The Leaning Tower of Texas is waiting in Groom. And somewhere out past Adrian, you'll hit the exact midpoint of the entire route, halfway to Santa Monica. From there, the desert begins. Track 6, Texas. Big state, big stops, big sky. Texas. Welcome to Texas, where everything really is bigger. The sky is bigger, the land is flatter, the stakes are definitely bigger. Route 66 crosses the Texas Panhandle, a 186-mile stretch of wide-open plains, small towns, and some of the most iconic roadside attractions anywhere on the Mother Road. This is cowboy country. Cattle ranches stretch to the horizon. The wind blows hard enough to lean into, and the sunsets out here are worth pulling over some for. Don't let the simplicity of the landscape fool you. Texas has some of the best stops on Route 66, including one of the most famous art installations in America and a steak restaurant that dares you to eat 4.5 pounds of beef in one sitting. Your first stop in Texas is Shamrock. And if you only see one building in this entire state, make it this one. The U-Drop Inn at 101 East 12th Street is a stunning Art Deco masterpiece. A gas station and cafe built in 1936 with swooping lines, green glazed tile, and a tower that looks like something out of a Flash Gordon movie. The pointed spire rises above the flat panhandle like it landed here from another planet. This building inspired Ramon's House of Body Art in the Pixar movie Cars. And once you see it, you'll understand why. It's been restored to its original glory and now serves as a visitor center. Walk through the interior and admire the craftsmanship. But the real magic happens after dark. Come when the neon lights up, the building glows green and blue against the night sky, and the effect is genuinely magical. If you can time your visit for dusk, you'll get both the golden hour exterior and the neon. While you're in Shamrock, the Pioneer West Museum at 204 North Madden Street is a small-town museum with a surprisingly good collection. Native American artifacts, pioneer life exhibits, and Route 66 memorabilia fill the rooms. The volunteers are friendly and happy to share local stories. Shamrock was founded by Irish settlers, and the town has leaned into its heritage. There's a pair of replica Blarney stones downtown. The story goes that kissing them brings good luck for the road ahead. Up to you. Head west into the wide-open panhandle. The land is flat and the road is straight. You can see for miles. McLean is a quiet little town that used to be a lot busier when Route 66 was the main road. The Devil's Rope Museum at 100 Kingsley Street is dedicated to something you probably never expected to find a museum about: barbed wire. Now, before you drive past, consider this. Barbed wire changed the American West more than almost any other invention. It let ranchers fence the open range and ended the era of the cowboy cattle drive. It sparked range wars between farmers and ranchers that shaped the settlement of the frontier. The museum has over 2,000 varieties of barbed wire. Yes, there are that many. There are also fencing tools, ranching artifacts, a good Texas ranching history exhibit, and, if you look carefully, a barbed wire wedding dress. It's one of those stops that people always say surprise them. McLean also has a restored Phillips 66 station and a section of the original road that's still in good shape. Groom is small, but you'll know you're there. Two things mark the town from a distance, and both of them are visible from miles away across the flat panhandle. The first is the Leaning Water Tower. It looks like it's about to fall over, and that's entirely the point. A truck stop owner named Ralph Britton purchased the tower, hauled it to Groom, and deliberately tilted it as a marketing gimmick. Motorists would pull off the highway to warn him his tower was collapsing, and they'd end up buying snacks and filling their tanks. Brilliant in a very Route 66 way. The truck stop is long gone, burned down in a fire, but the tower remains, leaning stubbornly against the Texas sky. You can't walk up to it, but you can get close enough for a great photo. The second landmark is the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ, a 190-foot steel cross rising from the plains near Groom. You'll see it from miles away. It's one of the largest crosses in the Western Hemisphere, and it's surrounded by bronze statues depicting the stations of the cross. Whatever your beliefs, the sheer scale of it against that enormous sky is striking. Love it or find it strange, it's hard to ignore. Free to visit if you want a closer look. Amarillo is the only real city in the Texas Panhandle, and it's Route 66's main event in this state. Amarillo was a cattle town, then an oil town, and then Route 66 brought the tourists. The historic district along 6th Street, the old Route 66 alignment, has antique shops, restaurants, and some nice murals. It's worth a walk if you have an hour or two, free to explore. But the two stops everyone comes for are just outside downtown. Cadillac Ranch sits on the south side of the I-40 frontage road west of Amarillo. There's no sign. You just look for 10 Cadillacs buried nose first in an open field, their tail fins pointing at the sky. It's weird. It's wonderful. It's one of the most famous art installations in America. A group of artists called Ant Farm planted these cars in 1974. The models span 1949 to 1963, tracing the rise and fall of the Cadillac tail fin. For more than 50 years, visitors have been spray painting them, and the paint layers are now inches thick. On any given day, the color scheme has completely changed from the day before. It is a constantly evolving work of public art, and the tradition isn't just allowed, it's encouraged. Bring your own spray paint. Hardware stores in Amarillo sell it, and you'll often see locals selling cans from their trucks near the site. Shake well before you start. Watch where you spray so you don't hit other visitors, and don't try to take any paint off the cars. What goes on, stays on. That's the whole point. It's best at sunrise or sunset, when the light hits the paint just right and the colors blaze against the flat horizon. Park on the shoulder, walk through the gate, and wear shoes you don't mind getting muddy. The other Amarillo essential is the Big Texan Steak Ranch at 7701 I-40 East. You cannot miss it. The building is bright yellow, with a giant cowboy statue out front, and the whole place radiates Texas showmanship. Inside, there's taxidermy everywhere, a shooting gallery in the gift shop, and an atmosphere that's part restaurant, part carnival. The main attraction is the 72-ounce steak challenge. Eat the entire steak plus sides, which include a shrimp cocktail, a baked potato, a salad, and a bread roll in 1 hour, and the meal is free. Fail, and you pay $72. Thousands have tried, most have failed. Challengers eat on a raised platform so the whole restaurant can watch. It's entertaining, even if you're just a spectator. But here's the thing people don't always mention the regular size steaks are actually very good. You don't have to attempt the challenge to eat well here. A normal meal runs $20 to $40, and the atmosphere alone makes it worth the stop. Amarillo also sits near the geographic midpoint of Route 66. There's a midpoint marker on 6th Street downtown. You're halfway between Chicago and Santa Monica. 55 miles west of Amarillo, the Panhandle gets even emptier. Just grass, sky, and the occasional windmill. Vega is a small town with a restored Magnolia gas station that's picture perfect, red Pegasus sign and all. The Vega Motel is a classic motor court if you want to spend the night somewhere quiet. Dot's Mini Museum has old Route 66 stuff, good for a 15-minute stretch. Adrian is the midpoint of Route 66. You made it. Chicago is 1,139 miles behind you. Los Angeles is 1,139 miles ahead. The Midpoint Cafe at 305 West Historic Route 66 marks the spot with a sign out front and ugly crust pies inside. The cafe inspired Flo's V8 Cafe in the Pixar movie Cars, and the pies have been famous along the route for decades. Get a slice, take a photo with the Midpoint sign, sign the guest book. You're officially halfway to California, 35 miles from Adrian to Glen Rio, the last stretch of Texas. The land is so flat you can see the curve of the earth. Tiny towns flash by, most of them barely alive. Glen Rio sits right on the Texas-New Mexico state line, and it is a true ghost town. It thrived when Route 66 was the main road. Gas stations, motels, cafes serving travelers heading east or west. Then I-40 bypassed the town in 1973 and everything closed. Today, it's abandoned buildings and tumbleweeds. The old Texas Longhorn Motel sign still stands, faded but readable. Walk around carefully because some structures are unstable. The state line runs right through the middle of town, and you can stand with 1 foot in Texas and 1 in New Mexico. It's eerie and beautiful. Look for the first motel in Texas, which is also the last motel in Texas, depending on which direction you were driving. The same building advertised itself both ways. Smart marketing from the Route 66 era. The building is abandoned now, but you can still see the old signs. A reminder of how the road once lived. Step across the state line and you're in New Mexico, the land of enchantment. The landscape changes almost immediately. The flat plains give way to mesas and red rock. Tucumcari is just 40 miles ahead, glowing with neon. The west is getting closer. You've just driven 186 miles of Texas Panhandle. You spray-painted a Cadillac, ate pie at the midpoint of Route 66, stood in a ghost town where the state line runs through the middle of the street, and watched the sunset turn the flat horizon into a painting. Not bad for a stretch of road that looks like nothing from the window of a passing interstate. New Mexico brings turquoise sky, red desert, adobe architecture, and a culture that goes back 1,000 years. The road gets more beautiful with every mile from here. Track 7, New Mexico, the land of enchantment. New Mexico changes everything. The flat Texas plains give way to mesas and red rock. The air feels different, thinner, drier, cleaner. The light has a quality you don't see anywhere else, turning the desert gold at sunrise and pink at sunset. This is the Southwest, and it's beautiful. Route 66 crosses 487 miles of New Mexico, from the ghost town of Glen Rio to the trading posts of Gallup. Along the way, you'll find neon motels, ancient pueblos, and one of America's great cities in Albuquerque. This state rewards slow travel. Take your time. The route originally zigzagged north through Santa Fe before a 1937 realignment sent it on a more direct east west path through Albuquerque. Both alignments are worth exploring if you have the time. Tucumcari tonight, 2,000 motel rooms. The old billboards promised it, and Tucumcari delivered. This little town was a major stop on Route 66, with motels stretching for miles along the highway. Many are gone now, but the survivors are some of the best on the entire route. Come at dusk when the neon lights up. The Blue Swallow, the Safari, the Roadrunner Lodge. Their signs glow against the desert sky like they did in 1955. This is what Route 66 looked like in its golden age. Free to explore, 1 to 2 hours. The Blue Swallow Motel at 815 East Route 66 Boulevard is the crown jewel. It was built in 1939 and has been welcoming travelers since the early 1940s. Its neon sign, a blue swallow bird in flight, is an icon. It is the most photographed motel on Route 66. The rooms still have the original garages attached, so you can park right at your door like travelers did 80 years ago. Book a night if you can. Rooms run $149 to $160. If not, come at dusk for photos. TP Curios is a souvenir shop that's been open since the Golden Age, with a TP-shaped entrance and shelves full of Route 66 memorabilia, pottery, and postcards. The Tucumcari Route 66 Museum covers the local history of the road, and the town has a Route 66 monument sculpture that makes for a great photo. Santa Rosa is another old Route 66 town with a nice strip of vintage buildings. The Route 66 Auto Museum has a good collection of classic cars. But the real draw isn't on the highway, it's a swimming hole. The Blue Hole at 1085 Blue Hole Road is an 80-foot deep natural pool of crystal clear blue water in the middle of the desert. The water stays 62 degrees year-round and is so clear you can see straight to the bottom. Scuba divers come from all over the world to train here. You don't have to dive to enjoy it. Walk down to the edge, look into that impossibly blue water, and cool off if you're brave enough. It's a strange and wonderful surprise in the middle of nowhere. A quick note about Santa Fe. Before 1937, Route 66 went through Santa Fe, one of America's oldest and most beautiful cities. When the route was straightened to bypass it, the town fought back, eventually convincing travelers to take the Santa Fe Loop. It's worth the detour. Santa Fe has adobe architecture, world-class art galleries, excellent food, and the oldest church in the United States. Add 60 miles to your trip, but gain a day of exploring one of America's most unique cities. If you have the time, take the loop. You won't regret it. Albuquerque is New Mexico's biggest city and Route 66's longest urban stretch, 18 miles of Central Avenue running straight through the heart of town. It's a mix of old and new, with historic neon signs alongside modern breweries, and Old Town Adobe, next to the University of New Mexico. Here's a piece of trivia that will stick with you. In downtown Albuquerque, Route 66 crosses itself. The original 1926 alignment ran north-south along 4th Street, while the post-1937 alignment runs east-west along Central Avenue. At the intersection of 4th and Central, you're standing at the corner of Route 66 and Route 66, the only place on Earth where the road intersects with itself. Drive Central Avenue end to end. It has some of the best neon on Route 66, the Elvado Motel, the De Anza Motor Lodge, and the neon signs of the Nob Hill District, all light up beautifully after dark. The Chemo Theater is a stunning example of Pueblo Deco architecture, built in 1927 with skulls and kachina figures decorating the facade. It's a style you won't find anywhere else on Earth, blending Art Deco design with Pueblo and Navajo motifs. Free to drive, 1 to 2 hours with stops. Old Town Albuquerque is the city's original heart, founded in 1706. The plaza is surrounded by adobe buildings housing galleries, restaurants, and shops selling turquoise jewelry, pottery, and Native American crafts. San Felipe de Neri Church has been holding services since 1793. It's touristy, sure, but it's also genuinely historic and beautiful. Come hungry. The New Mexican food here is excellent. Try the green chile, free to explore 1 to 2 hours. Nob Hill is the hip part of Route 66, centered on Central Avenue at Girard. Vintage shops, craft breweries, and some of the city's best restaurants. The neon Nob Hill sign marks the district. Good for an evening stroll and dinner. Free to explore, 1 to 3 hours. One thing you need to know about eating in New Mexico? At every meal, you'll be asked green chili or red. Green is fresh and bright with a kick. Red is earthier and deeper. Can't decide. Order it Christmas, which means half and half. The correct answer is try both. This isn't just a condiment here. It's a way of life. If you're here in October, the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta is the largest ballooning event on Earth. Hundreds of hot air balloons fill the sky at dawn. Even outside October, the city offers balloon rides year-round. West of Albuquerque, the landscape becomes extraordinary. Red rock mesas, volcanic formations, and views that stretch for dozens of miles in every direction. Head west on I-40 and look for signs to Acoma Pueblo. Acoma Pueblo, known as Sky City, is one of the oldest continuously inhabited communities in North America. It sits atop a 367-foot sandstone mesa, where people have lived for nearly 1,000 years. The views from the top are stunning. The history is humbling, the pottery is world famous. Tours are required and led by Acoma guides. This is their home, and they share its stories on their terms. It's one of the most powerful experiences on Route 66. Don't skip it. Grants is a former uranium mining town with a nice little downtown. The New Mexico Mining Museum lets you take an elevator down into a recreated mine shaft, which is a surprisingly immersive experience. Route 66 runs through the middle of town past old motels and diners. The drive-through neon Route 66 arch is 18 feet tall and shaped like the highway shield. Park underneath it for photos. Best after dark when the LED lights are blazing. Between Grants and Gallup, the road runs through dramatic country. Lava flows, red rock, and the Continental Divide at an elevation of 7,275 feet. This is the geographic spine of North America, the line where water flows either toward the Atlantic or the Pacific. There's a marker and a sign. It's one of those moments where the scale of what you're driving hits home. Gallup is the last major stop before Arizona, and it's a beauty. This is Indian country. The Navajo Nation surrounds the town, and trading posts selling turquoise, silver, and rugs line Route 66. Hollywood discovered Gallup early, filming dozens of westerns here. The stars stayed at the El Rancho Hotel, and some of them never left. At least their photos didn't. The El Rancho Hotel at 1000 East Route 66 has been hosting travelers and movie stars since 1936. Its motto: charm of yesterday, convenience of tomorrow. Walk through the lobby and you'll see photos of everyone who stayed here. John Wayne, Katharine Hepburn, Kirk Douglas, Ronald Reagan. The hotel is still operating, and rooms are surprisingly affordable at $100 to $140 a night. Even if you don't stay, walk through the lobby. It's like stepping into old Hollywood. 20 minutes for a visit or book a night. The trading posts along Route 66 through Gallup sell authentic Native American jewelry, pottery, rugs, and art. Prices are fair, quality is high, and you're buying directly from or very close to the artist. Richardson's Trading Company has been in business since 1913. The Gallup Cultural Center in the old train depot has exhibits on local tribes and a gift shop. 1 to 2 hours to explore the trading posts. Gallup calls itself the most patriotic small town in America and sits at an elevation of 6,512 feet. The Intertribal Indian Ceremonial, held annually, is one of the largest gatherings of Native American tribes in the country. If your timing lines up, it's unforgettable. West of Gallup, Route 66 crosses into Arizona, the second to last state on your journey. The landscape shifts again. Painted desert, petrified forest, and, eventually, the Grand Canyon, a side trip you won't want to miss. New Mexico gave you 487 miles of turquoise sky and red desert. You slept in a motel built in 1939 where you could park at your door like it was 1955. You looked down into an 80-foot pool of impossibly blue water in the middle of the desert. You stood on top of a mesa where people have lived for 1,000 years. You ate green chile on everything, ordered it Christmas when you couldn't decide, and understood why New Mexicans are so passionate about it. You drove through a neon arch, crossed the Continental Divide at 7,275 feet, and walked through a hotel lobby covered in photos of movie stars from the 1930s. Arizona brings painted canyons, petrified forests, a town that single-handedly saved Route 66 from extinction, and one of the 7 natural wonders of the world, just 90 minutes off the road. The final push to the Pacific is getting close. Track 8, Arizona. The most dramatic state on Route 66, Arizona. Arizona is the grand finale before California. The landscape here is otherworldly. Painted deserts in purple and orange, petrified trees turned to stone, red rock canyons that glow at sunset. This is the Arizona you've seen in every Western movie. And it's even better in person. Route 66 crosses 401 miles of this beauty from the New Mexico border to the Colorado River at California's edge. Along the way, you'll find the best preserved stretch of the original highway, the town that saved Route 66 from being forgotten, and a corner in Winslow made famous by an Eagles song. Arizona has it all. Shortly after entering Arizona, you reach one of the most remarkable places on the entire route. 200 million years ago, this was a tropical forest. Today, those trees are stone, rainbow-colored logs scattered across the desert like fallen giants. The park also includes the Painted Desert, where the hills shift from red to purple to blue depending on the light. The colors change with the time of day, and the best viewing is early morning and late afternoon when the low sun sets the Badlands on fire. It's unlike anything else on Route 66. Route 66 once ran right through the park. You can still see a rusted 1932 Studebaker sitting on the old alignment, a ghost of the road's past, slowly returning to the desert. Drive the 28-mile park road, stop at the viewpoints, and walk among the petrified logs. The cross-sections reveal colors you wouldn't believe: reds, yellows, purples, even blues, crystallized inside stone that's older than the dinosaurs. Pick up a piece, and it's heavy, dense, unmistakably rock. But the grain, the rings, the texture are all tree. It's a strange and beautiful collision of geology and time. The park entrance is at I-40, exit 311 near Holbrook. You can drive through one entrance and exit the other, which puts you back on your route heading west. Holbrook is a classic Route 66 town with a Wild West past. It was so rough in the 1880s that the sheriff was killed on his first day. Today, it's famous for something considerably friendlier: 15 concrete teepees you can sleep in. The Wigwam Motel at 811 West Hopi Drive is one of the most recognizable motels on Route 66. Built in 1950, it has barely changed since. The teepees are arranged in a semicircle with vintage cars parked out front, and each one is a motel room. It's kitsch elevated to art. Book a night if you can. It runs $105 to $115. If not, stop for photos. 30 minutes for a visit, or stay overnight. Just east of town, Stewart's Petrified Wood Shop is impossible to miss. There's a giant green dinosaur sculpture guarding the entrance. Inside, you can buy pieces of petrified wood, fossils, and geological curiosities. Between Holbrook and Winslow, a detour worth considering. Meteor Crater at I-40 exit 233. It's a 50,000-year-old hole in the ground, nearly a mile wide and 550 feet deep. A meteorite hit here going 26,000 miles per hour, and the impact was so perfectly preserved in the dry Arizona climate that NASA used the crater to train Apollo astronauts before they went to the moon. Standing on the rim, looking down into that vast bowl, you start to understand the kind of forces the universe is capable of. It's not technically on Route 66, but it's close enough to warrant a stop. Winslow, Arizona achieved a kind of immortality thanks to one line in an Eagles song. The band made this corner famous in 1972, and Winslow leaned into it. Standing on the corner park at Kinsley Avenue and Route 66 features a bronze statue, a painted flatbed Ford, and a mural of a girl in a window. It's cheesy and wonderful, and everyone stops here. Get your photo, buy a t-shirt, sing the song. It's a Route 66 rite of passage. La Posada Hotel at 303. East 2nd Street is the real treasure in Winslow. Mary Coulter designed this Harvey House Hotel in 1930, and it's her masterpiece. Spanish colonial architecture, lush gardens, original art. The hotel closed in 1957 and nearly became a parking lot before passionate preservationists saved it. Stay the night if you can. It runs $150 to $250, and it's one of the most beautiful buildings on Route 66. At minimum, walk the grounds and have dinner at the Turquoise Room restaurant. The food is excellent. 30 minutes for a visit or stay overnight. Flagstaff sits at nearly 7,000 feet, surrounded by ponderosa pine forest, and after days of driving through desert and plains, the cool mountain air feels like a gift. Route 66 runs down Santa Fe Avenue past historic hotels, breweries, and shops. This is a real mountain town with a downtown you'll want to explore. The Museum Club is a legendary log cabin roadhouse built in 1931, originally as a taxidermy museum before becoming one of Arizona's most famous honky-tonks. Its future is uncertain, so check ahead if it's on your list. North Arizona University, founded in 1899, gives Flagstaff genuine college town energy. The locals call it FLAG. With over 28,000 students, the university is the heartbeat of the city, blending historic red sandstone buildings with modern facilities. The campus sits right in the center of town, and the cool, pine-shaded lawns and mountain backdrop make it perfect for a casual walk. Lowell Observatory at 1400 West Mars Hill Road is a stop most people don't expect to find on Route 66. Established in 1894, this is where Pluto was discovered. It's still one of the leading observatories in the country. Visitors can enjoy open-deck telescope viewings, dark sky planetarium shows, and guided tours that explain why Flagstaff was named the world's first international dark sky city. If the skies are clear, the stargazing here is extraordinary. Flagstaff is also the gateway to the Grand Canyon. You're 80 miles from one of the most awe inspiring sights on Earth. Yes, it's off Route 66. Yes, it adds half a day. And yes, you absolutely should go. Take US 180 north to the South Rim. Give yourself at least 3 to 4 hours at the park. The canyon is a mile deep, up to 18 miles wide, and carved by the Colorado River over millions of years. No photograph, no film, no description can prepare you for the moment you walk to the edge and look down. The scale is almost incomprehensible. Watch the sunset if you can. The colors shift from gold to red to deep purple as the light drops, and the shadows inside the canyon seem to move. Then, return to Route 66 and continue west. Williams is a charming little town that leans hard into its Route 66 heritage. The main street is lined with gift shops, diners, and motels with vintage neon. It was the last town on Route 66 to be bypassed by the interstate. And that didn't happen until 1984. The Grand Canyon Railway departs from Williams and takes you to the South Rim by vintage train, if you want to reach the canyon without driving. This is where Route 66 was saved. When I-40 bypassed Seligman in 1978, the town nearly died. But a local barber named Angel Delgadillo refused to let it go. He organized the first historic Route 66 Association and fought to get the road recognized as a historic landmark. His efforts led directly to the preservation movement that spread across all 8 states. Without Angel Delgadillo, there is a real chance Route 66 would have been forgotten entirely. Pixar's animators visited Seligman during their Route 66 research trip, and the town inspired Radiator Springs. Angel's story of how the interstate killed the town directly inspired one of the film's most memorable scenes. The whole movie is a love letter to places like this, small towns that refuse to be forgotten. Angel retired from barbering in 2022 at the age of 95, but his family still runs the gift shop and he occasionally stops by. Today, Seligman is a strip of colorful shops, diners, and photo opportunities that celebrates the Mother Road. Every building seems to be painted, decorated, or turned into a roadside attraction. The Snowcap Drive-In at 301 East Chino Street is the weirdest burger joint on Route 66 and one of the best stops in the state. The Delgadillo family has been serving burgers here since 1953 and pranking customers just as long. Fake mustard bottles, doors that don't open, staff who answer yes to every question, regardless of what you ask. The food is good, the experience is unforgettable. Along the way, don't miss the Hackberry General Store at 11,255 East Highway 66. It's a beautifully preserved old gas station and general store covered in Route 66 memorabilia, vintage cars, gas pumps, signs. It's a photographer's dream. The shop inside sells souvenirs and cold drinks. Quick stop, great photos. Kingman is the biggest town in western Arizona and a good place to fuel up before the final push. The Powerhouse Visitor Center at 120 West Andy Devine Avenue has an excellent Route 66 museum. Andy Devine, the cowboy actor, grew up in Kingman, and the main street is named after him. Historic downtown has some nice old buildings and murals. Oatman is a former gold mining town where wild burros roam the streets. The donkeys are descendants of pack animals used by miners over a century ago. Now, they wander freely through town, nudging tourists and begging for treats. Bring $1 for burro food. They'll eat right from your hand. And the look on a burro's face when it spots a tourist with a feed bag is one of the great comedy moments of Route 66. The wooden sidewalks and false front buildings make the town feel like a Western movie set. The main street features daily gunfight reenactments, complete with cowboys in full costume falling dramatically in the dust. The whole town has a Wild West carnival atmosphere that's equal parts history and showmanship. The Oatman Hotel is where Clark Gable and Carol Lombard reportedly spent their wedding night in 1939. Though historians dispute this claim, either way, the hotel still displays their room, and the story is too good not to enjoy. The road through the Black Mountains to get here, Sitgreaves Pass, is the most dramatic stretch of driving on all of Route 66. Hairpin turns, steep grades, and stunning views, not for nervous drivers or anyone in an oversized vehicle, but if your car can handle it, this drive is unforgettable. From Oatman, the road descends to the Colorado River at Topok. Cross the bridge, and you're in California. The final state, the last push to the Pacific. Arizona gave you 401 miles of the most visually stunning driving in America. You walked among 200-million-year-old trees turned to stone. You stood on the corner in Winslow. You slept in a concrete teepee and looked through a telescope at the observatory where Pluto was discovered. You drove through the town that single-handedly saved Route 66 from extinction and ate a burger served with fake mustard and a straight face. You watched burros wander down a Wild West main street and drove hairpin turns through mountains that took your breath away. And somewhere in there, you stood on the edge of the Grand Canyon and realized that some things are bigger than any road. California is next, the Mojave Desert, the mountain passes, Los Angeles. And then, at the very end, the Pacific Ocean and the Santa Monica Pier. You're almost there. Track 9, California, the end of the road. California, you made it. California, the eighth and final state on Route 66. The promised land that drew Dust Bowl migrants, Hollywood dreamers, and road trippers for nearly a century. The Pacific Ocean is 316 miles ahead, waiting at the end of a pier in Santa Monica. But first, the Mojave Desert. This is some of the harshest and most beautiful landscape on Route 66. Ghost towns shimmer in the heat. Joshua trees twist toward the sky. And at the end of it all, Los Angeles, the city that sold the California dream to the world. Your first California town sits on the Colorado River. Needles is hot, regularly one of the hottest places in the country. In summer, temperatures routinely exceed 110 degrees, and the desert heat hits you like a wall when you open the car door. But the town has history and charm worth stopping for. The El Garces Harvey House at the train depot has been beautifully restored and now serves as a transit hub and community space with guided tours available. It's one of the most handsome buildings on this stretch of Route 66. Route 66 runs down Broadway past vintage motels and diners, and the neon signs glow in the evening heat. Here's a piece of trivia for Peanuts fans. Snoopy's brother Spike lives in the desert near Needles, according to Charles Schulz. The cartoonist based the character on the harsh, empty landscape around this town. Look for the Peanuts murals painted on buildings around downtown. Steinbeck wrote about Needles in The Grapes of Wrath as well. It was where the Joad family first saw California, and it wasn't exactly the paradise they'd imagined. The Joads crossed the desert at night to survive the heat, and if you're here in summer, you'll understand why. Fill up your tank here. This is critical. You're about to drive into the heart of the Mojave, and there are no services for long stretches. Make sure you have gas and water. West of Needles, Route 66 plunges into the Mojave Desert. Head west into the heart of lonely country. No services for long stretches, so make sure you have gas and water. The desert is beautiful in the early morning or late afternoon, when the light turns the brown hills gold and the shadows stretch for miles. This is stark, unforgiving terrain. Rolling hills, Joshua trees, dry lake beds, and silence. Miles and miles of silence. If you've been listening to music in the car, turn it off for a while. Just listen to the road and the wind. After 7 states of landmarks and attractions and towns competing for your attention, the Mojave strips everything back to the essentials: you, the car, and the horizon. It's the most meditative driving you'll do on the entire route. Deep in the desert, the near ghost town of Amboy rises from the emptiness like a mirage. Population 4. Roy's Motel and Cafe has been sitting here since the 1930s, and its Googie-style sign, Roy's in tall retro letters with a pointed arrow, is one of the most iconic images of the entire route. A perfect example of mid-century roadside architecture, rising from a landscape where nothing else exists for miles in any direction. The motel and cafe are mostly closed, but the sign remains, and you can still buy gas and cold drinks. Even if nothing is open, the exterior against the empty desert makes for incredible photographs. Stand in the parking lot at sunset, and you'll understand why photographers make pilgrimages to this spot. This is Route 66, at its most lonely and beautiful. The Amboy Crater, a dormant volcanic cinder cone, sits behind town. You can hike to the rim in about an hour if the heat isn't too severe. Go early morning if you attempt it. The views from the top look out across an ocean of flat desert that goes on forever. Continue through the desert, passing through tiny Baghdad, which was once a town and is now just a sign, and Ludlow. The landscape is Mars-like: volcanic rock, dry lakes, endless sky. Barstow appears ahead, a railroad town that's been serving travelers since long before Route 66. 75 miles from Amboy, about an hour and a half. Before you reach Barstow, a stop that nobody expects and everybody loves, Elmer's Bottle Tree Ranch at 24266 National Trails Highway in Oro Grande. It's a forest of metal trees covered in thousands of glass bottles. Elmer Long built this folk art installation over decades, welding pipes and hanging bottles that catch the desert light in ways that change with the time of day. In the morning, the bottles glow warm. In the afternoon, they blaze. When the wind blows, the whole forest makes music, a gentle clinking that sounds like wind chimes made by someone who'd never heard of rules. It's weird, wonderful, and completely free. Elmer passed away in 2019, but his family keeps the ranch open. Wander through the bottle forest, take photos, and leave a bottle if you have one to spare. Barstow is a railroad town at the crossroads of the desert and a good place to fuel up before the final push to LA. The Harvey House at the train station. The Casa del Desierto at 681 North 1st Avenue is beautiful. One of the finest examples of Spanish colonial revival architecture on Route 66. The building has been lovingly restored, and inside you'll find the Route 66 Mother Road Museum and the Western America Railroad Museum. If you have any interest in trains, the Railroad Museum alone is worth the stop. Main Street has some nice vintage buildings and murals. Good place to fuel up for the final push to LA. Head southwest through the Mojave, passing through Lenwood and Hellendale. The landscape starts to change as you approach the mountains that separate the desert from the Los Angeles basin. 35 miles from Barstow to Victorville, about 40 minutes. Victorville is the last desert town before the mountains. The California Route 66 Museum on D Street is worth a stop. With good exhibits on the road's California history, vintage cars, signs, and memorabilia. The New Corral Motel has a great neon sign if you're hunting for photo opportunities. After hundreds of miles of empty desert, Victorville feels like the edge of something. Because it is, the mountains are right ahead, and Los Angeles is on the other side. This is the dramatic part. Route 66 climbs through Cajun Pass, reaching over 4,200 feet in elevation with stunning mountain views on both sides. The old road, Cajun Boulevard, is still drivable in places, and taking it instead of the freeway gives you a sense of what this climb felt like for the Dust Bowl families in their overloaded jalopies, grinding up through these mountains with California on the other side. Then you descend into the San Bernardino Valley, the green sprawl of the Inland Empire spreading out below you, and you realize you're inside the Los Angeles metropolitan area. The desert is behind you. The last act has begun. 40 miles, about an hour. At the top of the pass, the Summit Inn at 5970 Mariposa Road in Oak Hills was once a classic diner where Elvis ate. So did every other celebrity who drove Route 66 to Las Vegas. The original burned down in a wildfire in 2016 and has not been rebuilt. But the iconic red sign still stands against the sky. The site remains a landmark for Route 66 travelers, and there is hope it may yet return. In San Bernardino, the original McDonald's site at 1398 North E Street is where it all started. The McDonald brothers opened their first restaurant here in 1940, then revolutionized fast food with their speedy service system in 1948. Ray Kroc visited in 1954 and turned it into an empire. The original building is gone, but a museum on the site tells the story with memorabilia and vintage artifacts. Whether you love or hate what McDonald's became, the story of how two brothers in San Bernardino changed the way the world eats is genuinely fascinating. For one last night in a teepee before LA, the Wigwam Motel at 2728 West Foothill Boulevard in Rialto is the second wigwam on Route 66, a sister to the one in Holbrook, Arizona. Same concrete teepees, same vintage cars out front, same perfect kitsch. This one's in better condition and easier to book. $90 to $120 a night. Sleep in a teepee your last night before the finish line. Route 66 becomes Foothill Boulevard through a string of suburbs. Fontana, Rancho Cucamonga, Glendora, Azusa. It's all urban now, but look for vintage signs and old motels between the strip malls. In Rancho Cucamonga, the old Richfield service station is a beautifully preserved piece of roadside architecture that looks startlingly elegant surrounded by modern development. Traffic gets heavier as you approach LA. The transition from empty desert to this suburban sprawl happened in what feels like minutes. And that contrast is one of the most striking moments of the entire trip. 45 miles from San Bernardino to Pasadena, about an hour to an hour and a half. Pasadena is the last real stop before LA, and it's a good one. Colorado Boulevard is the Route 66 alignment, and it's the same street where the Rose Parade happens every New Year's Day. Old Town Pasadena has shops and restaurants and restored historic buildings, and the architecture is gorgeous, especially compared to the suburban sprawl you just drove through. After days of desert diners and roadside cafes, a meal in Pasadena feels almost startlingly civilized. Take your time here. And then, Los Angeles, the city at the end of the rainbow. For Dust Bowl migrants, LA meant work and a new life. For Route 66 travelers, it meant palm trees, movie stars, and the Pacific Ocean. Route 66 runs down Sunset Boulevard and then Santa Monica Boulevard. Names you've heard in 100 songs? There's too much to see in LA for a quick stop. But if you only have a few hours, the Hollywood sign, The Walk of Fame on Hollywood Boulevard, the Chinese theater where movie stars have pressed their hands into concrete since 1927, and then straight to Santa Monica for the finish. A word about LA traffic. It's real. It's bad. Avoid driving between 7 and 9 in the morning and 4 and 7 in the evening if you can. The last 15 miles to Santa Monica can take an hour on a bad day, but you didn't drive 2,400 miles to get stressed at the finish line. Breathe. Roll down the windows. You're driving through one of the most famous cities in the world, on one of the most famous roads in the world. You're almost there. Santa Monica Boulevard all the way, through Beverly Hills, West Hollywood, and finally Santa Monica itself. Follow the signs to the pier, find parking, good luck with that. Walk out onto the wooden boards. This is it. The end of Route 66. The pier at 200 Santa Monica Pier stretches into the Pacific Ocean, with a Ferris wheel turning overhead and the beach spreading in both directions. Street performers play on the boards. The smell of the ocean fills the air. At the foot of the pier, a sign marks the official end of the road. It reads, Santa Monica, 66, end of the trail. You've driven 2,448 miles from Chicago to get here. Touch the sign, take the photo, then walk to the end of the pier and look at the ocean. The same road that started on Adams Street in Chicago ends here, where the continent runs out and the water begins. 2,448 miles. 8 states, hundreds of towns, diners, motels, and roadside attractions. You've driven the most famous road in America. The same road that carried Dust Bowl migrants, post-war vacationers, and dreamers heading west for almost a century. Route 66 is a story, and now you're part of it. Find somewhere to sit. The pier has benches, or take your shoes off and walk down to the sand. Order something cold, watch the sun drop toward the Pacific, and let it all sink in. The road that started on Adams Street in Chicago ends right here, where the continent runs out and the water begins. You just drove Route 66. Free, as long as you want.